Hi guys, Rhi here. Welcome back to another episode of Real Talk with Rhi. Today we are talking about a topic that I think impacts a lot of us, and that is mastering our motivation, how we can finally stick to those routines that we know will help us, we know will make our lives run smoother. And this episode was inspired by a question I had sent in, so I'm going to read it to you now. And it's, hi Rhi, wonder what are your best tips for trying to stay motivated and try and get a routine and keep it going. I can make it last like a week and then fall straight out of it. Also, I do shift work, so none of my shifts are the same, so I'm in a bit of a struggle. Any tips? So in this episode, we're going to talk about how to master that motivation, stick to a routine, and how to kind of get back on the wagon when life happens, because as a mum of 4 children, all of which who have autism, life happens a lot. So life gets in the way of our routines, and then being able to kind of get back to them is kind of a trick. So I'm going to share with you how I managed to do that. So the first step really is setting quite clear goals and understanding your why. So why is it you want to stick to your routine? Because staying motivated to do a thing is one thing. It's perhaps quite challenging. But being motivated because you know doing this thing will get you to feel a certain way is much easier. So, for example, with me, I know that it's taken me quite a long time to kind of get my life organised and flowing in a way that works for me. And I think one of the big sort of motivators for me really is knowing how I felt when things were really out of control. And I can think of certain parts in my life, certainly before I started my massive productivity journey and before I really tried to kind of hack mum life, which turns out since I was diagnosed with ADHD early this year is sort of me been trying to just hack ADHD as well. But that's a whole other story. But this kind of memory of feeling like everything's so out of control, everything's such a mess. Having rooms in my house that were just so cluttered, I didn't even want to go into them. They were just overwhelming. And knowing how that feels and knowing how difficult it is to kind of pull it back and reset from that when things go that far, largely keeps me on track. So that's not the healthiest way to think about it, but I guess to a degree, it's like the fear of things slipping into a mess and knowing how much work it is to then stay on top of things kind of keeps me on track. Another less dramatic example of this would be if you think about when you get back from holiday, how much washing you've got. You've just emptied the cases all over the floor and you're like, wow, how am I ever going to get through this? And it feels really overwhelming to think about having to get on top of things. And I hate that feeling. I like the feeling when things are kind of like, okay, the laundry basket's never empty, it's never totally empty because there are so many of us living here, but I like that feeling of being on top of things, and I really dislike that feeling of mountains of things that I'm not sure how I'll ever get through. So part of my motivation for staying on top of things is just to avoid that feeling. So it's not necessarily even like way back before I started all of this, and I probably would be unlikely to slip into the entire house kind of falling into complete disarray. But definitely part of the motivation to put on the washing every day, regardless of what day of the year it is. Like I'll put washing on Christmas Day just because I think future me will be glad. Future me will be so glad that I haven't got days and days of washing to catch up on. So those little gifts to future you can really act as really great motivation. And knowing how pleasant things are going to feel when they're done, that really is a massive one for me. So it's like not wanting things to feel out of control, but also thinking how pleasant things will feel. So for example, like I really don't want to change the bed, and you strip all the sheets and like, oh, do you want to put it straight all back on now? So, can you be bothered? Because let's face it, changing the bed's hard work. Now, it's like twofold for my motivation here. I really want to avoid that feeling of walking up the stairs and seeing the bed and realising you'd stripped the sheets and you hadn't put them back. I want to avoid that like the plague. That is horrible when you're just so tired you can't wait to crash into bed and then you realise you've got to put the sheets back. No. So avoiding that feeling is motivation enough to want to put the sheets back as soon as the bed's been stripped, which is why I always have 2 sets of bedding, one on and one in the wash for each room. But also the lovely feeling of, when you get into bed and you've had a shower and you're all clean and the sheets, like no one's got in them yet and they're super fresh and clean. That feels so lovely that motivates me to bother to want to change the sheets in the first place. So these can be little, very mini goals of just how you want to feel. But ultimately, goals attached to your feelings and goals attached to your emotions are far easier to tap into. So if you're having a bigger goal, like a fitness goal, for example. So I've been on a little bit of a health kick the last few months. And the reason for this have been, for a few reasons. But some of the reasons have been I just don't want to feel tired and like I can't keep up with my life. So I've got a walking treadmill, which I've got that for lots of reasons, partly because it's good for ADHD and productivity and concentration, and partly because it means I can double up doing exercise while I'm working. So I don't have to find the motivation to go and exercise because I'm just doing it while I'm working. Anyway, I digress a little. One of the fitness goals was just, and this is a little bit woolly, and some people say that you've got to, things need to be a bit more tangible than this, but I want to feel like when we go to the Disney parks, because if you've seen one of my other channels, Mummy 4 Does Disney, we love as a family going on Disney trips. But when you go to Disney, you're doing 25 bazillion steps in a day at least. And I don't want to feel like when I'm doing that is really hard and then we get into bed feeling absolutely battered all over. I want to be able to take that in my stride, so to speak. I want to be able to keep up with the children and chasing them all over the parks. I don't want to then wake up the next day aching all over because I'm not used to it. Whereas if I am used to being busy and active in my everyday life, that's not going to be such a shock to my system. It's not going to end up spoiling our holiday because I've got DOMS, with delayed onset of muscle soreness or stiffness, either or really, just feeling absolutely, Disney tired from head to toe because I've walked so much I'm not used to it. Another kind of indicator, motivator perhaps, was when we were going from Walt Disney World to our cruise on the Disney Wish, I lifted a case and I pulled my back. And that was really painful. And I thought to myself, do you know what? If I was doing more strength training, that is less likely to happen. And then I'm less likely to pull my back. And then that's less likely to spoil. Because let's face it, the first day or two of our trip, I was in quite a lot of pain after that. So I thought, well, if I'm stronger, then that's less likely to happen. And that is a good motivator for kind of staying on target. Having these goals kind of front and center really, really helps you. Somewhere for you to look at them, put together a vision board, you can put together a list in the front of your planner. Keeping your why front of mind will help you so much with sticking to your goals. It really, really will. And if that goal is to stick to routine, having this understanding that your routine is there to help, not hinder you. Your routine is there to grease the wheels. Your routine is there to automate things. Your routine is there to think about things you don't have to. And that is why I love routine for myself as someone with ADHD. My children love routine because they have autism and it makes them feel safe and secure and they like things to be predictable. For me, I like routine because I have to think less and it hits my brain less. So that is absolutely important. The other thing that is important, obviously, the lady that wrote in the question was saying about shift changes. So routine does have to be flexible. There has to be flexibility if you've got shift changes. There has to be flexibility if you or your children are unwell. So if you are so like, I must do this workout, and you're absolutely set on that, but actually you're really ill, you might end up doing yourself more harm than good. So you have to give yourself that grace and that flexibility, and to know that just because you're stopping for a day, you're going to be able to get back to it, and you're going to be able to come back to your why and start again. I know this is a fear I kind of always have, that I'm kind of worried that if I stop, I won't start back up again. And I know getting back to things can be really challenging, but that is when we have to come back to the why. Tracking things can also really, really help. Some of my planners do have trackers in them. This version that I'm using at the moment is the Organised Life and Gratitude Planner. This one actually has 2 pages a day for daily planning. It doesn't have the habit tracker in it because the version that's 1 page a day has some extra kind of weekly planning pages. But if a habit tracker is something you're interested in, then I do have a planner that includes one of those. But tracking whatever you're doing. So tracking whether you have put laundry on every day, tracking whether you have got in your 10,000 steps or however many you're supposed to be doing, tracking whether you've got up on time, and kind of giving yourself a little tick, a little gold star, can give you that little dopamine boost to make you want to stay on track. A prime example for me is my Apple Watch. So if you've got an Apple Watch, the fitness thing, you set your goals and you have to like close the rings every day. So there's like a stand ring. So you have to stand for a certain amount of minutes out of every hour, do a certain amount of movement and a certain amount of exercise minutes. And when I'm in the groove of that, I don't want to break my streak on it. And it's nominal. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't earn me anything. Nothing really changes if I do it. But in my brain, it's like I'm getting a gold star for sticking to my habit. And there are so many, habit tracker apps, accountability with other people. So if you've got a friend that's on a similar journey to you, you could check in and on each other, and having that accountability might be just enough to get you to stick to that routine, especially at the beginning, because ultimately with routine, the more you do it, the easier it is to stick to, and the more it becomes natural. It just becomes who you are, and you stop being like a person that is trying to get fit, and you start being a fit and healthy person. And when you can kind of embody that identity of that person that is fit and healthy, then that's so much easier to stick to. So now I don't feel like I have to try and remember or try and force myself to get my steps in, because I just naturally raise my desk. This desk, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on the podcast, I apologize, but this desk's got like little buttons here, and when I press them, it goes zzz and raises. I stick my walking treadmill underneath, and I just walk while I work. And that now feels very, very natural to me, because I am the sort of person that does that now. That is sort of part of my identity. However, when you're starting, that initial motivation, but it's like things in motion stay in motion. It's that initial momentum that sometimes you need that extra shove, which is perhaps when you need a bit of extra support, when you are going to need to follow trackers and things a little bit more closely. Like, for example, years ago when I was on, when I first started doing Instagram, I used to post every day when I was putting my laundry on. And the fact that I knew that other people were watching that was almost enough motivation to make sure I actually did it. I don't know. Let me know actually if you're following me on Instagram, if you want me to bring back daily laundry reminders, whether you like those or not. I still do laundry every day. I don't necessarily post it every day. I think I worried it bored people, but that initially was enough of accountability to make me do it all the time, whether I wanted to or not. Another thing that is quite important is prioritizing self-care. I'm going to take this moment for a sip of water, because that's self-care. And for self-care, especially as mums, it can be something that's really, really difficult to fit into your days. This is why making things easy is so, so important. So let's take my little hydration habit, for example. I have this massive cup. It sits on my desk. You can hear it clinking. That's because it's full of ice. I have this on my desk at all times. So hydrating is easy. It's right there. In fact, I'm such a child that if it was just water, I'd be marginally less likely to drink it. So I actually have a little bit of, I'm currently into the Robinson's, I think it's peach and raspberry squash. I just put a tiny bit of that in there, and it tastes so good that I really enjoy drinking it. So I drink more and more of it. And this habit, because I've made it easy, because I have got a cup, this is pale pink. It is a colour I like. A lot of things in my house are like grey, white, pale pink. So because it is pretty, I know this sounds silly, but because it's pretty, I'm more likely to grab it and take it with me. Because it is sealed and covered and it remains cold, then I'm more likely to drink the water, because I don't like water when it goes warm. Because it's less likely to spill, because it's got the lid, I'm more likely to keep it out and about. We have got by our bed, this was one of the game-changing things, we've got by our bed chili bottles, which are more spill-proof actually than these Stanley cups. And they are, I think they're 500 millilitres, half a litre, something like that. Big tall bottles. And when we moved to this house, I bought one each for myself and my husband, a pink one and a grey one. So they even look pretty in our bedroom. So we don't have to think, oh, are we going to like take a glass of water up to bed in case we, are thirsty in the night or whatever. The water stays cold because it's in these what do they call them? Well, chili. Oh, what is the word? Thermos. Keeps them chilled. The word escapes me right now, but they're in these bottles that keep cold water cold. They keep the cold water cold for 24 hours actually. So I know when I wake up in the morning, I can glug a load of water. It is right there I'm more likely to do it because I have made that easy. I've made it attractive because it actually physically looks pretty in the room. So it's not offending me. I'm not like tidying it away. And yeah, it is there. It's easy. I'm more likely to do it. And staying hydrated is an element of self-care. And I think self-care we think of as like, we have this picture, it pops up in my head anyway, someone lying in the bath with their hair in like a face mask on and cucumbers on the eyes. Like that, I think the image that pops into your head when you think of self-care, but self-care is so much more than that. Self-care is probably the bit of my routine I struggle with the most, but the one I know I need to work on and the one I'm trying to work on, because when my self-care diminishes, when it takes a back seat, then other things in my life, I find the wheels start going off a little bit. So, for example, if I'm not getting enough sleep, I end up getting really ill. During the lockdown, COVID, that Christmas time, I had COVID and the rest of my family had COVID and most of them were asymptomatic, but I was so ill. And subsequently when I had COVID again, I was vaccinated. Was I vaccinated that first time? No, I don't think the vaccines had come out. Anyway, I've come to the conclusion, the reason I was probably so ill at that point, because I was just really burning the candle at both ends. It was a difficult time. I mean, it was a difficult time for everybody. Let's face it was a really difficult time. It was a challenging time for everybody. But we had been in lockdown. My husband wasn't working as much, obviously, because lockdown, he's a builder. So, a lot happened then he couldn't work. So I was trying to work, homeschool the children, keep everyone upbeat. And I was doing, I think it was either 20 past 4 or 4:30 every morning. I would get up and work. And I think the reason I got so ill was I was just so burnt out. I probably got it because I was just so, like, my immune system was weakened because I was so burnt out and so burning the candle at both ends. So prioritizing self-care helps your routine because it stops you reaching the level of burnout where you're just going to let everything go. You're going to let everything slide. And it is I think the difficulty with me with self-care, with exercise and things, is knowing when I should push through and be like, don't be so lazy, get up and exercise. And when it's like, actually, you're a bit ill now and you probably need to sit down. And that kind of self-care piece is a difficult line to walk, I think. I think for lots of us it is. Again, because I'm like, am I just being lazy? Should I push through? Or do I need to listen to my body at this stage and slow down? Because otherwise I'm going to be really, really ill. So this is where I think as well, slight tangent, but picking an element of like movement set type self-care that works for you is really important, rather than trying to force yourself to do something you don't want to do. So I've talked about this before on the podcast and on my channels, but I've always loved the idea of being a runner. Like years ago I danced and would literally dance like all day on the weekends, every evening. I was really fit. Yet I could not run. It was just never something that came naturally to me. I always felt silly. I felt like I couldn't do it. I got out of breath, so I could dance for hours and hours and hours, do entire shows, and yet running, it's like a different thing. And then so many times, if you followed me on Instagram over the years, how many times did I start a couch to 5K going, right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to become a runner. And every time I just hated it. I hated it so much. And I found it hard. And then I think I got to 40 and I thought, why am I trying to force myself to do something I hate? And clearly it's like swimming up the river for me. I need to go with the flow and pick things that I like. So this is why now my walking and working fits and works for me. It's something that comes to me easily, naturally. It's an ease and flow kind of thing. If, however, you love running and it lights you up, make that your form of exercise self-care, because exercise is definitely such an important key piece of self-care. Now, for me, it's not something I necessarily like super look forward to. There have been times in my life where I've like been attending dance classes, or years ago I did used to teach dance classes, where I did genuinely look forward to certain classes and things. Now I more look forward to how I feel because I exercise. So that element of my motivation to stick with the self-care for the exercise again comes back to more of the, I know I'm going to feel so good when I've done it. And sometimes starting doing it feels a bit like, oh, I don't want to. I'd rather stay in bed. I'd rather get on with other things. I'd rather stay on the sofa. But I know ultimately when I get going, when I'm doing it or when I have done it, I feel great. And I feel more energized and I feel more awake. And for me, eating the frog, getting moving first thing in the morning really sets me up for my day, really to get me going, to get me moving. So yeah, taking breaks, I think, is the most important part of self-care that I really need to work on. And scheduling in self-care into your calendar the way you would schedule other things. So for quite a while now, I have been scheduling in workouts in the mornings before the children get up, and that's kind of a non-negotiable for me. What I don't necessarily schedule in, and I'm going to try to, is more stuff for my mind that heals my soul, like hanging out with amazing friends. I think it's so hard when you're a mum and your friends are mums, and it's like, can we do next Thursday? And it's like, no, little Johnny's got a swimming class. And can we do Tuesday? Well, no, Bettina's got a ballet recital, blah, blah, blah. It's like everyone's always got something. And then you get to the day and someone's ill, and then actually I've got work to do and I need to sort the house because something's happening. Blah, blah, blah. Mum life, it's crazy. And then eventually you're like, well, we could meet 2 years time. I have time. And I think we're all a little bit guilty of that. But what I am going to try and do now is really schedule in a bit more of this lovely, amazing time where it's just a few hours to meet up with lovely friends. I mean, I'm really lucky that I've got a few lovely friends where our children are friends as well. So my children don't have cousins, their age that they could play with. And I find that a bit sad because I had cousins growing up and I loved it. They were littler than me, but I loved my cousins so much. And I loved hanging out with them and I loved that dynamic. But I'm so lucky that I've got friends that are like my children's aunties, and my friends' kids are like my children's cousins. So I'm really going to try and schedule in a lot more of those play date things where the children have a lovely time and we have a lovely time. And I'm going to try and schedule those well ahead of time so that we make sure that they happen. It is currently, if you're watching this, it is September. I'm actually recording this in August, just before we go on our Disney cruise, hence the nails, by the way. If you're watching on YouTube, apologies if you're listening on the podcast, but if you're watching on YouTube, that's why my nails look like that. We're about to go on a Disney cruise, and I'm recording this just before we go. But so if you're listening to this, it's September. I'm going to try really hard this year to book in Christmas fun things to do super early, and birthday things. So my birthday's in October. I've got another friend whose birthday is right end of September. We have already put a date in the diary. I'm really proud of myself for this, that we're going to go for a lovely lunch on a Friday afternoon, and I'm going to work it to make that happen so that my work is done and I can go and do that. And I will love that. And then we'll go and pick the children up from school. I can't wait to do that. And I'm so pleased that we've scheduled in. And to me, that is self-care. That is something that fills my cup, because I've got a lot of lovely people in my life, a lot of lovely friends who are just, friends you kind of see out about chat or whatever. But I feel very lucky that I've got a handful of close friends that it's like their brain is the same as my brain and they know what I mean before I finish my sentence. And I'm so lucky to have those amazing humans in my life. I'm just so lucky. And I need to make more time for those people. Sorry, I'm going to get emotional. We had someone in our lives recently we lost. Wasn't going to talk about this, don't know why I'm talking about it, but anyway, it's something I remembered something that this person had said previously, before they passed away, and they said that were reading an article about a palliative care nurse who had written out the top 10 or something regrets that people have on their deathbed, and top one was not staying in touch with friends. And I think it's not that I don't stay in touch with my friends, but I don't think that we make enough time. And I don't think it's with malice. It's not like I don't make time for my friends because they're not important. I don't think they're like that with me. I think it's just our lives are so busy and we've got all these children and we all work and we're all just like juggling. And the balls that get dropped are the self-care, the things for us where we catch up with friends and things. Because it's like, well, I have to feed the children. I have to do my work. I have to take care of them when they're ill. So where do I find that time from? And the stuff that gets cancelled are the fun things with our friends. But we do only get one life. And for me, I think the self-care thing that I'm really going to work on is making time to do lovely, amazing things with those friends. Because whenever I do that, I come away going, why don't we do this more often? I enjoyed this so much. And they say the same. So for me, that is going to be something self-care wise I am going to work on, is that's something you can work on too. If you are watching on YouTube, by the way, you can comment below and let me know what is your self-care thing, element of your routine that you're going to try and incorporate in order to support the rest of your routine. Because if you are healthier physically and mentally, sticking to your routine of staying on top of your laundry and your work and your tidying and your cleaning and all the boring things, it's going to be so much easier. Another slight tangent now tip though is to kind of flip around the way you think about cleaning and tidying your home. So if you treat cleaning as I'm going to take this into two chunks actually. In my head, there's two types of cleaning. There's the little microwave minutes that you do throughout the day, and then there's like big cleaning. So what are microwave minutes? For me, microwave minutes are those few minutes you have while you're waiting for the microwave to bang and you can do something, and you don't have to be waiting for the microwave to bang. It could be, you could be in the bathroom watching your kids, on lifeguard duty, making sure they don't drown while they have a bath. You could be, just finishing the bathroom yourself. You could be waiting, you've got a few minutes before you got to leave for school pickup. And those little minutes, if you can utilize those minutes, those little power minutes to just get some things done, it's so, so satisfying. If you treat it like a game, you're like, how much can I get done in these few minutes? You set a timer, then that can be really, really satisfying and you can get that cleaning done. And if you can gamify parts of your routine that are a bit boring, then brilliant. That makes it easier. If you can gamify it and then reward yourself and be like, right, I am about to sit down and enjoy my current favourite treat, which is a bag of Maltesers in the evening. I can't tell you how much I'm enjoying that at the moment. Is that self-care? Bag of Maltesers, and I just put one in my mouth and I suck off all the chocolate, and it's just divine, and I look forward to that all day. But if I'm like, right, okay, I'm going to have my Maltesers once I've like put the washing on and done these things, that's like a little reward for me, a little reward for sticking to the things that I'm supposed to do, because I know that ultimately when my house feels cleaner and the washing is done, I will feel better. But also in the short term, I get this little reward of my Maltesers. And then the other type of cleaning I would say is like the either power hour or like all day cleaning, but more than a few minutes where you're like, I'm in cleaning mode now. And for me then I've got, these things, AirPods, again, sorry if you're listening, you can't see, but these are just, any like wireless headphones. And I always have, if you ever come to my house and I'm not at my desk, I will always have one in fact, even at my desk, I tend to have one in my ear, and then when it goes flat, I switch it over, I listen through the other one. That way I can still listen out for the kids. If I'm walking on the road, I'm not going to get run over because I can still listen out, and I can swap them over when they go flat. But I've always got podcasts on the go. I've got audiobooks on the go. And one thing I would say I am good at doing is keeping up with friends on the phone, because I use those times where I'm walking, where I'm cleaning, to talk to friends and to catch up. And if you ever watch any of my speed clean videos, my decluttering videos, my organising videos on my channel, then you will see me with an AirPod in, because I am listening to something, because otherwise I am bored. So basically by turning your cleaning into, well, I'm going to do that and I'm going to catch up with my friend, or catching up with a friend while going for a walk, if you want to like buddy up your healthcare part of your routine and getting in your steps, walk and talk to your friends, walk around, go on a walk on your own and talk to your friends on the phone. But for cleaning, it's so boring. If I'm like, right, I've got a really good podcast I want to listen to, a really good audiobook I want to listen to, or even I quite often have like a YouTube video on my iPad and I'm walking around listening to it. So you don't watch it brilliantly well. So it has to be more like a video like this. If you're watching this on YouTube, you could absolutely be walking around cleaning, and it doesn't matter what I'm, there's very few things you actually have to look at in this video because it's largely audio. There are some series that I would comfort watch while cleaning. I would not clean while watching a series that was new to me, that I like really enjoyed, because obviously you miss some of the visuals. But if it's like, I don't know, what's your comfort series, like Friends, Sex and the City, just something like that, that's just like comfort TV for the soul, you could put that on while listening to and cleaning. And you could do that while cleaning, and you could think, right, I want to watch this show, I want to listen to this book, I'm going to do it while cleaning. Again, if it's a power hour, you can set a timer for an hour and just go all out for that hour. The other thing you can do is you can treat it like exercise. You can be like, right, I'm going to like put on my workout gear. I've actually got trainers that haven't been outside since I last washed them. I've got a pair of Skechers that go in the washing machine. And those are the trainers I wear in the house for when I'm doing my walking on my walking pad. So if I put those on for when I'm cleaning, it's almost like I'm in the mode. I'm like, right, I'm in go mode. I'm like, go, go, go. And that really helps me stick to my routine. Help getting your family involved with helping stick to your routine really helps too. So quite recently, I've got all the children far more involved in helping with changing their own beds. And Will and Bella now are the middle two, and they are capable of changing their beds independently. They actually help each other, because it's a lot to manage on their own. Zara's 7, so she's not capable of it totally by herself. Like, I'll help her. But those middle two will actually change their own beds now. So Will's 12 and Bella is 9. And they're getting into I love the fresh sheets and enjoying having their rooms nice. So I'm starting to get them into this, isn't it nice when this is done? And they know on a certain day of the week, that's what happens. And they also get the reward because they get pocket money after their rooms are done and tidy. So you can implement this stuff with your family to bring all these principles on board to help everyone stick better to a routine. One of the routine pieces actually that has just absolutely changed the game is implementing into my weekend routine planning for the week. And initially I was like, oh, I don't want to take this time. It's like, I just want to relax on the weekend. But it's absolutely changed the game. So again, I'm using my planner. These are linked below. This is my Organised Life and Gratitude Planner. And on the weekends, I just take a few minutes and I think of this as like a nice indulgent thing. I sit down with my drink and I'm like, right, gift of future me. This is an important part of my routine. I'm going to plan for the week. I have my week at a glance. I put my family's names along the top, each family member, and then down the side I've got days of the week. So you're just gonna have to imagine this in your brains if you're listening. And then I've got a rough kind of who's got ballet and karate and swimming and all the things on each day. And then I do my meal planning as a little gift to future me. I put down the ingredients that I have to use up. And then from there I meal plan. So like maybe we've got some jacket potatoes that need using or something, or some sauce or something's about to go off, whatever. They go in the ingredients to use. I then make sure I incorporate those into our meal plan. I use the week at a glance that I've already established. Right, okay, so so-and-so's not home for dinner that night and that person doesn't like this meal, so I'll make sure that I plan that meal on that, and work it like that. And also, right, this night has to be a super quick and easy meal, so therefore we'll do like a more complicated meal on a day I'm home longer, that kind of thing. And then I do my next page actually. The other thing I do for the week, I do my to-do list using an Eisenhower matrix. So I've got things that are important or not important. This could also be important or not taxing. So some things that I put in my not important column might be order a birthday card. And it's not that it's not important for me to order that birthday card for my friend, because obviously that friend is important, so that birthday card is important, but it's not a taxing thing to do. So if you are doing out your important, not important, urgent and not urgent things in your Eisenhower matrix, and just if you want to have a look at what this looks like, then head over to the YouTube video and you can see the visuals. But sometimes I like to think of this as important or not taxing rather than not important, because those are like the not important things for me. The things I put in there are more like order a birthday card, fill out a form. Like maybe that form's important, but it's not like a big taxing thing. It's just a quick, like a microwave minute task, not I need to allocate time in the calendar for this kind of task. That's right, I've got a few minutes. How many of these tasks? And I go, bosh. And then we've got urgent and not urgent. So the things that are important and urgent, obviously I tackle first. I tackle those things first thing in the morning. And in my routine where I've got my calendar blocking, I have got time at the beginning of the day for like focused tasks. And each day I have like 3 top priorities on the next page. I allocate which top priority I'm going to have each day. And those top priorities are the things that like have to get done, non-negotiable. And then it's satisfying because I can tick them off at the end of the day. And it's just as simple as like there's a little box with a tick in it and I can like tick over it. And that little dopamine hit of ticking things off is so helpful for helping me stick to my routine. Another thing that actually is kind of helpful is to write things down on your to-do list that you have to do, even if you kind of do them in an automated fashion. So you have that little dopamine hit of taking them off. And then at the end of the day, and you're like, have I done anything? Like, have I achieved anything? Then you have. You've achieved those things because you can go back and you can look in the list, you can tick them off and you can feel really, really proud of yourself. So this is kind of an element of rewarding yourself. Ticking something off a list can be a reward. Enjoying that bag of Maltesers. And I'm not saying that you should like reward yourself with food. That's probably really unhealthy food behavior, but it's just an example. That's something I enjoy. Watching a favorite show, be like, right, I will watch my show, but as long as I've like put the washing on first. Or I'm going to watch my show while I'm on my walking pad, you know, while I'm getting my steps in. That is like, I'm rewarding myself while doing something. I'm going to talk to my friend while I'm working out because I've got my headphones in. That in itself, its own little reward. And if we can like make the things in our routine that cause us friction that we don't want to do more enjoyable and more rewarding, we're just far more likely to stick to them. And really something that this kind of planning on the weekend really helps me to do is to reflect and adjust. I've also got another planner that I use monthly. It's called the Organised Year Planner because it is for the full 12 months. And each month in this planner, this is how I plan my months out. So I can find a fresh month to show you. So at the beginning of each month, I look back at the previous month and I look at what I was celebrating, like what went well. And it's like a little pat on the back, okay, did things go well? What did I manage to achieve? And I go through my daily planner and I'm like, oh, actually, I did manage to launch a new product in my shop this week. Or I did manage to record, extra podcast episodes ahead of time before going on my Disney cruise. So that future me in September could be like, oh, thank you. Because future me in September is going to have all the washing to catch up on. And future me in September is going to have a lot of editing to do for the Disney cruise vlogs, which are super fun to edit, but take about 3 or 4 times as long as a normal video because there's a lot more work in them. So future me will be so glad that past me today has already recorded these podcast episodes for you when I'm not absolutely falling asleep because I've just got back from a trip and I'm wound, I'm burnt out. So one of the things that I'll be grateful for this at the end of August when I'm writing this for September is like, I got so far ahead. I got all my content scheduled. I got my work done so I could go on my trip and I could relax and I didn't have to look at my emails. I didn't have to edit while I was away. I could just enjoy the trip. So yes, I'll be filming on the trip. Which is fine. I don't mind that at all. That's like not something I find, vlogging is not something that spoils my day. But having to like log on and do editing and stuff while I'm away, that perhaps would take away from it a bit. So I'm so grateful that I'm doing this gift to future me and taking this time now to do this work. And then you can reflect back on the month. I mean, you could do this weekly, but I tend to do this monthly. I do this on the weekend anyway, like what's gone well, what's not gone well, and what perhaps needs tweaking and changing in order to make the next week work. But monthly, I really look at this. So this is like a wheel of life where I assess each area of my life, how it's going. And then I can see if work's going really well, but I'm only scoring like 1 out of 10 for meeting up with friends. I'm like, okay, maybe I need to work on that a bit more next month, and I need to schedule some more things in. And then I look at specifically what went well and challenges I faced specifically in each area of my life. And then I can think when I'm planning for the next month, how can I work my routine to be more productive? Because ultimately, the way I see routine isn't just about churning out more productivity. It's about getting all the stuff you get done in a shorter, more efficient block of time so you have more space for breathing, for relaxing, for self-care. And it's just being more efficient with your time so that you have more time. That's what it's all about in my mind anyway. And then I look ahead to the next month, see what would I like to be celebrating at the end of the month, what might get away with that happening, what do I need to do to make it happen, and how I'll feel if I achieve that. And then I pick 3 goals for the month. What is the goal? Why do I want to achieve this? And how will I feel if I achieve this? And this helps me so much. I look at what might stand in my way, which action steps do I need to take, and what will be my reward for achieving this. So this is all the stuff that we've been talking about in this episode. How do I want to feel? How am I going to take the steps to make this happen, to work this into my routine? And what will be my reward? Because we all like a little reward, don't we? So thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of Real Talk with Rhi. Rate, review and subscribe if you're listening on the podcast. If you're on YouTube, subscribe and like and share and comment and do all those YouTube things. It really helps support the podcast. Check out my Patreon for some early release content and check out another video on screen. I know you will enjoy.